Welcome to a fly tying session with Scott from S-Spray Rods. Today I'm going to demonstrate the fox fur Clouser style fly. Probably my favorite carp fly. I've caught a ton of carp on it. I normally tie it in either size an 8 or a size 10, 2X, 4X long. All I had was some dry fly hooks, so that's what I'm tying it on today. Orange thread's pretty popular as far as this one goes. It matches up a little bit with the orange color of the fox fur. Some of these sections are fast forwarded, so it's going to look like I'm a really good fly tyer, and I'm not this good. So some of the sections are sped up a little bit. We're going to lay down a base layer of thread. We're going to leave our thread back from the eye of the hook a little bit. We're going to take our dumbbell eye. This is a bead chain eye. You can tie them in different weights. You can get the real heavy ones, real light ones. Once I tie it in from one direction, I like to tweak it over a little bit and then tie it in from the other direction. That evens it out. The wraps around the shank of the hook you're seeing here are really important because that's what's actually going to hold the eye onto the shank of the hook. When I'm about halfway done, I brush the top side with a CA glue and then wrap over the CA glue. Again, you're going to see several wraps around the eyes and then several wraps around the shank of the hook, which holds the eyes in place. Once I get it all wound down here, you can see how actually it's pretty tight, pretty set up. If you don't, do the wraps around the shank of the hook and use the glue, your eyes are going to have a tendency to rotate. Flies are going to fall apart a little quicker. Here you can see my fox fur. I'm going to cut a chunk out of it. The under fur on fox fur is really heavy, so we have to get some of that out of there, or it's just going to have a big lump right in front of the eyes. You can either pluck them out like that, or they actually make a comb where you can kind of brush them out. The nice thing about the comb is it keeps them organized, so you can use it as a dubbing later if you wanted to. So once you get it all brushed out, we're going to look for a natural curvature in the fibers. If we can find one, we're going to point them towards the bend of the hook. When we tie this in, we're going to leave the nose just a little bit long. Once we get it wound down, we're going to walk it back to the back side, walk it back up to the front. When you cut the long fibers on the front hand side, you want to lift them up and cut them at an angle. That makes it kind of form like a ramp. Makes it a little easier to tie down the nose without having a big clump on the front side. And we don't want to wind too much. If you build up too much thread, it will get real thick, be lumpy on the end. I think I probably by the end of this, put too many turns on there. And the next step, we're going to tie in the rubber legs. What you choose for rubber legs is up to you. I like the barred style. It gives a little bit of a motion. But if you wanted to put in a multicolor style or whatever you want to tie in, here you're going to see me slow it down a little bit. If you actually take the rubber leg, wrap it around the thread before you tie it in, as you can see right there, and then you actually use the thread to pull the rubber leg up onto the top side of the fly. Now it's pinched in. You use your next wraps to tie in the legs. A lot of the times, if you're trying to tie them in two pieces and hold the ends or the tips or little pieces in there, it's difficult. So if you just wrap it around the thread, it makes it a lot easier. After we get the rubber legs in, we are going to grab our flash. I use just a couple of pieces. You don't need to over flash for carp. Generally, they don't like that much flash. Same thing, we're going to take one piece, wrap it around. It's actually 2 lengths, but leave it in one piece instead of cutting it into 4 lengths. Once we get them wrapped in, we're going to pull 2 of them over to the other side, make it nice and even. Cinch them down. And again, minimal wraps. Probably wrapped a couple of too many times there. Get the fox fur out. We're going to cut a clump of fox fur. Once we get our fox fur cut out, again, we're going to have a big bunch of under fur on the one side. We're going to get that same comb out. Going to get as many of the fibers out as we can to reduce the butt side of the fur. You can see how much that pulls out. Again, I save that, or will save some of it for dubbing later. It actually makes really good dubbing. Measure them out to about the same length. Put the natural curve towards the other set of fur. Couple of wraps on this, not going to overdo it. Lift the tip, cut it on an angle. Once we get it cut on an angle, we're going to cinch it down a couple more wraps. I just did one there. Hard as whole head cement. The only reason I do 1 or 2 wraps after I get it cinched down is I want to be able to have this glue, this head cement, soak into the fibers of that fly. It's going to be less likely to pull apart. So now what I'm doing basically is saturating the thread with the hard as whole head cement. Once I get it nice and wrapped up, I'll throw a couple of half hitches in it. These again will stick in the hard as whole head cement and hold quite well. And all we got to do is snip the thread off. I'll pull it out of the vise. Once I get it out of the vise, then we will trim the rubber legs and the flash to just a little bit longer than the fur. And there you have it. Fox fur Clouser. Pretty simple, great fly. They tie fairly quick once you get the assembly line set up. I've caught a bunch of carp on them. Here's a lineup of the ones that I've tied tonight. Barred legs, couple of different weights of eyes. These were tied on 8s, 2X, 4X, orange thread. Whatever bead eyes you want to use or weighted eyes you want to use, whatever rubber legs you want to use. And assortment of flash, the Zap-A-Gap for the bead eyes and the hardest hole for the head, fox fur, and of course the ever important comb. Visit www.sprayrods.com for more. Don't forget to hit like and follow my YouTube page. Thanks for watching.